Cognicism is composed of four main parts, all interacting synergistically. The foundation is a trustless, distributed data store, like blockchain, where the further back in time, the more secure the data is. So that's the foundation. The second piece is what is being saved to that chain. Within Cognicism, what is stored and saved on that chain is beliefs, quantified beliefs about the world and about the community and about their individual world. And these beliefs are expressed into the chain via a protocol. There is a protocol for which people are sharing truths that they want to have weight in the future. They're basically saying, there's something about my word that I think should have weight and bearing upon the future and collective decision making. That's what you're saying. This section of my word has value, and I want to stake my word in society. So the protocol is called FourThought. Text that is brought through this protocol is tagged with metadata. Each belief or thought that is logged to this distributed data store, there's a character limit, maybe 256 characters, and there are two voting systems, and there's a category associated with each thought that is logged to this chain. The four categories of thoughts are predictions. These are beliefs about the future. Statement. These are beliefs about the present. And reflections. These are beliefs about the past. It represents our shared history and our perception of it. The fourth type is questions, seeking information, not declaring information, but seeking it. The two voting systems are certainty or truth. It's a spectrum vote from 0 to 100, where 0 represents a full confidence that information is false. 100 is a full confidence that information is true, and 50 is completely uncertain about whether the information in the text is true or not. The secondary voting system is well-being or goodness. It is, will this information contribute to well-being in some form? Is it good? And that is also a spectrum from 0 to 1. 1 is that it is fully a good thing for everybody, for me, for you, for all. And there's no doubt about that goodness of the thing. And 0 is, this is very, very bad. It contributes very negatively to either me or my friends or society at large. And if you take any section of spoken language, you can very easily parse it into this protocol and break it up by claims, by sentences or subclauses, and tag each, whether it's a prediction, statement, reflection, or question. You have the distributed data store, 1. 2, you have FourThought, which is a protocol for information exchange and certainty exchange. It's a means to evaluate our perceptions of information in a structured way that can enable different organizations or groups to interface with each other who are maybe strangers or don't fully know each other and don't know whether to fully trust another group or person or individual. You don't know whether their word has any worth. Is this person naturally a liar? Is this person not aligned with what is, or does this person really see the world for what it is and is also able to navigate through this world in a way that where they feel that they are thriving and contributing to those around them that are thriving. So there's that. And so the idea is that people in a society would be continuously sharing their perceptions of what is and what isn't, as is relevant to them or others at any scale. You are identifying, I would like to stake my word in this moment. In this moment, I feel confident of this thought, and I believe it strongly enough that I would stake some reputation on that. But of course, you can also just say things in complete uncertainty and you're not really staking anything, right? Because you don't know. If you're 50-50, you're not really staking anything. So all of these things, they're flowing to this database. So the next layer is a machine learning algorithm that takes in all of these thoughts and compresses them into a form where the knowledge within them is more easily accessible. So there's an aggregate voice. There's a machine learning model that's constantly reading in these thoughts and all of these voting systems. And because it can see everybody's votes on all of these thoughts, it can see the level of dissonance in belief. It can very easily see whether thoughts mostly people agree upon or whether there is a very wide spectrum of beliefs, or whether it's, distributed evenly across the idea space, in terms of confidence. Maybe a lot of people are uncertain, or is it a very polarized thought? There's some level of dissonance of belief that can be measured in the system through those two signals, truth and wellness. And also by giving some indication as to when the information is in reference to. That's very useful. Because remember, you have this blockchain where much older information is much more secure, and you can be confident that that information has not been edited by anybody ex post facto. This machine learning model is constantly reading in all of these thoughts that people are representing up as having importance to society. It knows the associated ID of the account of every single thought that is being shared with it. And then what it is attempting to do is to generate, in an unsupervised manner, thoughts that appear similar to what it has recently been streamed into, or within the same place. And I mean this in the way that we view GPT-3 functioning. It is taking a section of information and generating something in that semantic space. If you will, a deep fake of meaning, or an aggregate representation of everybody's beliefs, right? So it's kind of like the center of the collective belief. So that's one part. But you can also use those variables, the truth and the wellness, to shape what type of thoughts this machine learning model will generate or output. And so you can put a constraint on that. Therefore, you can do things like you can seek directly to minimize dissonance. Basically, you put a constraint on the types of thoughts that are generated that result in, this is the active learning part. So people are constantly sharing these thoughts, and then it'll output these aggregate thoughts. It's trying to generate types of thoughts relevant to those things, and trying to generate those thoughts based off of this concept called social proof of work, using the parameters of the protocol of Forethought. The individuals sharing thoughts with this chain are also iteratively interacting with it in a process of active learning. The thing is constantly changing what it's outputting based off of what people are interacting with it, right? So it might put out a thought of its own with a confidence rating of its own and a wellness thing of its own. And then people will react to those thoughts with their own voting of, I agree with how certain this thought is, and how closely aligned with what it is. And so the model uses that secondary process of generating a thought to optimize its output, basically. It's using the response of individuals to those thoughts to generate new thoughts. And because of this, the model can know two things. One, the source of information. The source of the information that is creating the thought can be parameterized. The source of the information, meaning the account. But that information is not visible to users because it's in this hidden state that needs to be extracted. And within that space represents essentially how much that model is attending to each individual voice and what they are sharing with the world. And after its output and logged to the chain, and time has moved forward, the last step, those numbers can be revealed so that information can basically be evaluated anonymously in a way that is really evaluating everybody's thoughts at the same time. So there's this constant iterative process where you're constantly sharing these thoughts. The model's constantly reading them in, constantly generating thoughts out of it. You are constantly reacting with your confidence and belief of those thoughts by the model and how well they are. And daily is outputting these numbers that represent a formation of adding up to one, basically a distribution of attention. If you think about money, for example, right now, if you took how much money you have divided by all money, that represents kind of how much power or influence you have in a society. This is simply, it's just a distribution of at that particular moment. How much does this person's voice, is it contributing to the zeitgeist, or what is relevant, or what is being amplified by this model that is trying to learn to represent your collective voices. So the final layer on top of that is social proof of work. And this is what takes advantage of all of those pieces interacting together. Social proof of work is another part of the cultural layer of cognicism. The tech stack is the distributed data store and the machine learning. The social layer of it, the social technology of it, is Forethought, which is a protocol for how you're sharing thoughts with strangers and with the system, a structured way that it can be collected, and the machine learning model that is aggregating it. Social proof of work is the way that we approach using those tools such that we can optimize towards a healthy and shared collective goal that has balance between individual collective well-being and our collective knowledge too. It creates a sense of balance. So social proof of work, then, this final layer, is essentially you use the system to share what work or what things you think need to be done to the world or change the world. And it could also just be your perception of what is and what isn't. You could be saying predictions. You're saying, I want to see this happen. And if this happens, it's going to be good. Well-being up. You're saying in the future, if this happens, it goes up, the well-being will go up. Or, in the future, if this goes down, well-being goes down. And I fully believe that this is going to happen, right? Now, the interesting thing about all this is if you're taking a snapshot of everybody's beliefs, past, present, and future, at every single moment on the timeline, and you're basically collecting a temporal snapshot of beliefs, you can, in the future, do a diff between past states and future states. And the alignment between those beliefs is incredibly powerful and useful signal to optimize towards. So you have people over years and over very short-term periods of time, days, just constantly sharing this information. And this model can constantly reference information from the past, present, and future. And it is trying to optimize for the present which information is most useful to be sharing to all the voices within a particular section of the network. And it is revealing to the people within that network after the fact which voices are contributing most to that word. So it's basically saying who is being attended to most after the collective evaluates that knowledge in an anonymized way. And every single day, those scores are logged to this chain. And so, in a way, the number that you have in that moment is kind of like a bank balance, but you just don't control it. It's a score that grows and diminishes. And having a very low amount of attention does not necessarily mean a bad thing. It just means your voice is not relevant in that moment to the problems that are facing the collective. And you could be doing work that will lead in the future to a very clear, strong representation. If something suddenly changes, if society dramatically changes suddenly, like a pandemic, right? Where the information ecology was clearly out of alignment, where somebody was saying this is going to be a problem, we need to prepare for it, and nobody else was listening. Within a day, the attention should shift to the voices that were warning about it and who had information ahead of the curve. It should happen immediately. This is achievable with the system because each day it's choosing what is relevant to the voices that are contributing to it the previous day in relationship to this learned representation of over time, which keeps refining and compressing upon itself. These are actions, these are voices that are most contributing to social well-being, and balancing that in a way where there's also an alignment with some collective representation of truth.